Let's get back together. I get it. I'm with you guys. I'll feel your pain, right? Let's focus that pain and that aggression on UPS.
The facts, dates, and events presented in this video are from the members' best recollection and may not be fully accurate. This video is intended for entertainment purposes only. Always consult with your local union about your rights and duties at your workplace. The opinions shared on this video are our own and do not necessarily represent my employer's positions, strategies, or opinions. All views shared are protected under the National Labor Relations Act.
What is going on, everybody? So today I have Greg Kerwood out of the Local 25 in Boston and Richard Hooker, Principal Officer of 623 in Philadelphia. And we only have 50 days left in this current contract. So in 50 days, we're either going to come to a new agreement or we're going to hit the streets. As simple as that. And we have a lot to cover in this episode. Last week, we had no news to report. This week, we have a boatload of news to report. And I brought these two fine gentlemen on today to try to help us out on, first of all, strike authorization. You know, what is a strike authorization is how is it being handled? And then on top of it, the tentative agreements. What we've kind of known so far as to what's going to be in our future contract and speculations of what we think is going to be in our future contract. So, with that being said, strike authorizations. Greg, what is a strike authorization vote?
So a strike authorization vote is literally just a survey of the members' willingness to go on strike or not go on strike if the bargaining committee can't reach an agreement. It is not something that ties us to a strike, or it doesn't tie us to a strike. It just gives the bargaining committee the authority to strike if they can't come to an agreement. So it's very important that we have one. It is very important that people vote yes, because that is what gives our bargaining committee the power to sit down at the table and say, look, we've got 350,000 people behind us ready to go if that's what you want to do, or we can sit down and get this done.
So historically speaking, we've always had a very large percentage of people vote yes on this. So Greg, can you explain like the importance of what maybe the international strategy is as far as doing this in person instead of doing this over mail? Right.
Well, I think we all know that turnout in mail ballots or phone ballots is notoriously low. I think the goal here is to try to increase involvement by a lot by doing the voting in person. I think Rich is going to talk about what his local's doing. But the idea is to have the voting in person, sort of coming to the members instead of expecting the members to come to us. That way we can make sure everybody's involved, everybody understands what's going on. It's also, it's an organizing opportunity as well, where you get to have a conversation with the member and explain to them what's going on, why we're doing this, and give them an opportunity to cast their vote.
So, Rich, we have a boatload of people across the nation right now that are upset. They're pissed off at their local because the way how this is being handled. Now, are the locals to blame in all this? What's going on right now?
Well, full disclaimer, what I'm about to say has no reflection on our show host or Greg, but this should have been handled a whole lot better. As a principal officer of a local, there should have been some type of notification that this was going to happen. To David's point, normally this is a mail-in ballot, electronic voting type situation. If it was going to be done in person, then it should have been done a lot cleaner and a lot better, because now our members are even more frustrated than before. We are glad that we're going to have this strike vote. I think that does send a very strong message to the company. But on the other side of that, it should have been done a whole lot cleaner and a lot better, because it puts locals behind the eight ball of trying to get people prepared, people ready to send UPS a message. Now, for our local, what we're going to do starting tomorrow, we have our general membership meeting, and we're going to have our members vote there. And it's not going to stop. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning, we're going to be at the gates nonstop, trying to get as many people, many members as we can to vote, to authorize a strike if need be. And that's what this is about. So I would just ask everybody who is upset and want to point the blame at the local, don't do that. We need everybody to focus on fighting the company. We need to give the National Negotiating Committee that hammer. They need that hammer. So if UPS wants to continue to drag their feet, because we still have 2 supplements that are not done, right? And I believe they're just nonchalant. And we need everybody to download that UPS app, get the information, ask questions about it, ask your local leadership. If you have someone down at the National Committee, ask them, because our members need to know, especially with 50 days left. We're kind of behind the 8 ball on the strike authorization vote. It's a lot of things happening. So there's a lot of anxiety, and we need to make sure that our members are very comfortable in this process. So please bear with your local. We found out the same way you guys found out, on social media, which is that's another story. But again, let's get back together. I get it. I'm with you guys. I'll feel your pain, right? Let's focus that pain and that aggression on UPS.
Now, with that being said, let's go on to the tentative agreements. What we know so far as to what's going to be on our contract, tentatively speaking. So, Greg, I'm going to throw it to you. Sean just had a webinar recently, and I'm going to put it in the description down below on YouTube for everybody to check out. But they gave a lot of really great information in that webinar, stuff that the members been wanting for a while. And Greg, I'm going to throw it to you. What do we know so far about the tentative agreements?
Well, as you said, Sean went through all the tentative agreements they have so far. It's kind of a laundry list of stuff. I'm not going to go over all of it necessarily, but there were a few housekeeping items, some stuff that was relatively significant, but still there's a whole lot of major issues left on the table. Stewards will now be paid for unlimited time in orientations. That was the first one. Previously, they were limited to 15 minutes. Another big one is drones and driverless vehicles will not be allowed without bargaining directly with the union. There's an increase in training pay for people who use Teamster members to train other Teamster members. Big one was we returned to no discipline based on technology. Some folks may remember that language got sort of twisted up in the 2018 contract. In addition to that, the cameras, the inside facing cameras will be disabled. And the sensors, I believe, on the outward facing will only be used in case of accidents and not to discipline anybody. There'll be no discipline based on any technology. There was paid time off restored for people returning from military service. Previously, they only got their vacations back. Another big one in Article 17 regarding pay penalty for payroll errors. As it was explained to me, full-timers will now, they'll get 4 hours for the first 2 weeks of the penalty pay period. And then beyond that, if they still haven't had their issue fixed, it'll be 8 hours per week. Part-timers will now get 4 hours per week for the first 2 weeks. And then after that, it will be 5 hours per week. That's a huge increase in the penalty pay. But as we know, the goal is to get the company to pay people correctly. There are now part-time transfers that were previously restricted to educational purposes. Now part-timers will be able to transfer for any reason whatsoever. Another big one, reduction of size of packages for SurePost. I don't know specifics, but it's expected to funnel a whole lot of work back onto our trucks instead of sending it to the Postal Service. There was an increase in penalty for harassment from 3 days pay to 5 days pay. Then there was a few things for sleepers. And then other things, management IDs, we sort of already have. Another one that's an issue in a lot of places, cell phones. Part-timers will now be allowed to bring the cell phones, or full-timers if they're working inside the building. Management can't tell them they can't have their cell phones. I know that's been a huge issue for a lot of people in a lot of places. And another one that I found in my group that came up that I had never considered, but I found to be very important for our women that work in the facilities. They now have to provide safe and secure and clean places for women that are breastfeeding. I can't even imagine what women had to deal with before this language, but I know it was very important and something that people, certainly the female members wanted, and it looks like they got it. So that's a huge thing.
Now, we got to be full disclaimer here. This was the stuff that was kind of just talked about on the last webinar. Until we get the actual tentative contract, we don't know exactly what's going to be in it. Greg, is there anything else you want to add on that whole subject?
Yeah, I would say it's very important. I know everybody has their issues that are most important to them. People are very fond of sort of drawing lines in the sand and saying, if I don't get X, I'm voting the whole contract down. I would just remind everybody that these are relatively minor, I don't want to dismiss them, but relatively minor agreements. Most of our major issues are still out there, and it's really impossible to judge the contract until we see the whole thing and see the whole package. You wouldn't decide whether a book was good based on the first 2 pages or a movie based on the first 5 minutes. We're going to have to wait and see till we get the whole thing, till we get the actual language, till all of our issues have been addressed. And then it's up to each member to understand the changes, learn what they are, and decide whether or not it's good enough for them to accept.
So, Rich, we have a lot on the table right now, but we've definitely come to speculations on what we believe will be in this upcoming contract. What do you speculate so far?
Well, it's a lot, and we really don't know. To your point, like you said earlier, we need to know more. More language. We need to know more about what's being done, and I think that's where the disconnect between the membership and the leadership is taking place so far right now, is because there's not enough, as I say, meat with the potatoes, right? We're not getting enough on our plate to really come find out what's going on. So there's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. Oh, I heard this, you heard that. Then rumors start, and then the division gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I'm not trusting what my negotiators are doing. Now we're going back to where it used to be, and we got to get away from that. So what I do hope is that that we get rid of a lot of this gray areas in this contract. We need to turn those gray areas into green areas for our members. You know what I mean? So they can, we can go and make sure that our members have, bigger penalties. I'm glad to hear about the pay. Oh my goodness, that's a big one. That is a very big one. Penalty pay. So I'm just hoping that we start to learn more about what is going on in negotiations. We found out the 10 TAs. Hopefully, we'll continue to get those webinars and we continue to get that information so we can start coming back together. Because it seems like to me, this process is really starting to divide us more and more, and that's not a good look. And if we know it, the company knows it. And so we really got to start getting back together and really start attacking them like we were in the beginning of this thing.
So I ask this every time I have you two come on, and that is, are we going to come to resolution in the next 50 days?
I would say, given the current pace of things and the amount of stuff we have left, it's very hard to envision us coming to an agreement before August 1st. That can change fast. The company, is going to have a lot of people pressing them to get it done, who own shares, who stand to lose hundreds of millions of dollars if that stock price goes through the floor, which it will. So there's going to be a fair amount of pressure on them as we get closer. But at the same time, they're the arrogant company that they are. And I really don't believe that they're going to give us what we are asking for before August 1st and before we show them exactly what they stand to lose. I'm still leaning towards we're going to take it to the street.
So, Rich, time's ticking away. We're getting closer and closer. What do you think? Do you think we're going to come to a resolution, or do you think we're going to hit the streets?
I would say get your walking shoes, bring your towels, get plenty of ice, plenty of water. It's going to be a long summer on the side of the road.
All right. If you haven't done so already, add 623 Lives Matter on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever platform you can. And then Greg Kerwood's contract group, I'll put that in the description down below. So, shout outs. Who do you want to shout out tonight, Greg?
Tonight, I'm going to have to give a shout out to just all the members across the board. We're down to crunch time. We've got 50 days left. People need to start, if they haven't already, getting fired up, getting together, and pointing their anger and their frustration in the same direction. I've had the good fortune to meet with a lot of members this past week down in Florida, New Mexico a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of frustration, which is not a bad thing if we put it to use. And the way we put it to use is we get fired up and we get stuff done. And the first thing we got to get done is get this strike authorization vote done. We need to continue to talk to each other. We need to continue to talk about the issues, hold this company accountable to the current contract, and be ready. Be ready to take it to the street. You know, there's a lot of members that are all fired up to go. I'm fired up to go. And we need to carry that over for the next 50 days, because if we don't have a deal on August 31st, we are going to teach this company a lesson at the tune of over $1 billion a week. And that's how we're going to get what we deserve. And so everybody needs to know that. Everybody needs to take all that anger and frustration, whatever it is, whatever it's based on. Stop fighting with each other. Stop fighting with your local. Stop fighting with whoever else you're fighting with, and focus on fighting that big brown machine that wants to churn you up and spit you out, and teach them who makes the billions of dollars and who puts the money in their pocket.
Well said. You got me fired up, Greg. I'll tell you that right now. Rich, shout outs. Who are you going to shout out?
I got a couple. First, I want to give a shout out to all the locals who are going to be working overdrive to get these strike authorization votes to our national negotiating team. That's very important. And shout out to them. I know it's going to be, we got blindsided, but we still got a job to do. So shout out to all the locals who's going to participate. Second shout out, got to give a shout out to everybody who's going to come out to our 623 day. It's getting bigger and bigger. Got a lot of confirmations. I'm looking forward to really sticking it to the company. And last but not least, my baby girl, Jacqueline Hooker, graduating high school yesterday. Daddy loves you, and I'm very, very proud of you.
That's awesome. My shout out goes to Teddy Ostro for going on More Perfect Union. Man, what a great video. That guy killed it. And that's all I got. Appreciate you guys. Love you, and I'll see you next time.